Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Ebenezer Fontes Braga to defeat Forrest Griffin. And I'm here to talk about Jeremiah Wells versus Carlston Harris. This is another excellent fight. Both guys are 36, which gives me a little concern there. Carlston is 18-5 as a pro. Wells is 12-2-1. And Harris will have 3 inches of height and 2 inches of reach. I'll just get into it here. Harris has 18-5 record, 5 wins via knockout, 5 via submission, 8 via decision. And the 5 losses come 2 via knockout, 3 via decision. He lost by decision earlier in his career 3 times to good fighters, by the way. But yeah, early in his career. And he lost by knockout twice later in his career. Once to Shavkat Rakhmonov, which we saw spinning back kick him. That was a tough loss, but forgivable certainly. And Jarrah Al-Salawi, this guy who's in his prime, was a very good fighter, but now he's kind of fallen off a little bit. He's over in the PFL, and he's got no chin anymore. But he knocked him out in round 1 as well, or TKO'd him in round 1. Carlston, he's a well-rounded fighter. I think he's a little more well-rounded than Jeremiah Wells, a little more polished on the ground, certainly. Jeremiah Wells has 4 submissions, but they're all by rear naked choke. Carlston, I think, is a little more well-rounded, but where he has his best submissions are, he's gotten his best ones with the anaconda choke, forcing a bad shot on his opponent and lacing up his neck as soon as his neck presents itself. He beat Christian Aguilera in his UFC debut, and before that, to get into the UFC, he beat this guy Sagid, who's a really good Russian fighter, and Dana White was there to see that fight. He was in the crowd, and Carlston Harris strangled him, and you could see Dana White clapping. He couldn't wait to see the guy fight in the UFC. And now here he is, and the one setback is the Shavkat, but other than that, he's looked great in the UFC, beating Christian Aguilera, Impa Kasanganay, getting him out of there in round 1, and Jared Gooden. That was not his greatest performance, but Jared Gooden's always been a difficult guy to really dominate, and he took that fight on short notice, so he had nothing to lose sort of thing. And Carlston dominated him and used a good amount of wrestling to dominate him as well. His wins, again, 5-5 and 8. He can win every which way. He's sloppy on the feet, Carlston. I'll say he's dangerous, but sloppy. He doesn't have great technique, leaves a lot of openings. And again, it's one of those things, I couldn't even tell you what makes his striking sloppy. I just know what I see, and he's sloppy. And yeah, Carlston Harris, I have doubts about him, mainly his chin and the fact that he's 36 years old. Of course, Jeremiah Wells is 36 years old as well. And Jeremiah Wells, he's never been knocked out, but that's if you don't count his last fight against Matthew Semmelsberger. He won by decision, but I'm pretty sure he was knocked out in the fight. Either way, it's a strike against his durability. He hasn't been knocked out. He's got 2 losses, they're both by decision. Both 5-rounders, one to this guy Emmanuel Wallo, or Manny Wallo, and one to Vinicius de Jesus. Both guys scrappy fighters, good regional fighters, and he showed he could take it in defeat. One fight against Vinicius, he was pretty much done after round 1, or whatever. He looked like he was checking out mentally or whatever, but he didn't go anywhere. He still made it another 20 minutes. And his one draw, by the way, comes against Basil Hafez. I watched that fight 2 weeks ago, whatever, when Hafez made his debut, and it was close, if I'm being honest. Pretty close. I mean, it was ruled a draw. It was obviously close, but I thought Basil won, to be honest. Anyway, Jeremiah Wells, and I should mention he was knocked out as an amateur in 2011. He was 24 years old, probably 23 even, who the fuck knows. So it's like it never happened. But I just wanted to let you know that I saw it and I know it happened. And he looked really sloppy in that fight. I mean, it was sloppiness, but whatever. It's like it never happened, as far as I'm concerned. Although if he gets knocked out on Saturday, then I'll be like, see? I told you. He's got 12 wins, Wells, 5 via knockout, 4 via submission, 3 via decision. Pretty well-rounded there, but the 4 wins via submission are all via rear naked choke. The last of which we saw against Blood Diamond. Blood Diamond, the city kickboxing guy, trains with Adesanya. Definitely a limited fighter, pretty much a pure kickboxer at the UFC level. And Jeremiah Wells, despite almost stepping through the octagon or whatever, ripped him to the mat and strangled him. Got him out of there in round 1. He's got 5 wins via knockout, like I said, and they're all knockouts, like legit knockouts. And we've already seen a few of those in the UFC. Warley Alves, Court McGee. Yeah, right now it looks like anybody could have knocked him out, but it took somebody to get the ball rolling, and that was Jeremiah Wells. Jeremiah Wells cracked his chin, and I know Ponzinibbio knocked out Court McGee many years ago, but still, as far as setting him into retirement, Jeremiah Wells got the ball rolling there. And against Warley Alves, that was an incredible debut. Flying kneed him after a good first round. Just incredible debut for Jeremiah Wells. Look, I have doubts about both guys. I really do. I think they're both vulnerable. I think they're both really good, though, and dangerous everywhere. You know, Harris may be a little more well-rounded, but they can both get it done any which way, and they both have good power. But I think Jeremiah Wells has better power. And as far as their chins go, well, I'm not exactly so confident in Jeremiah Wells. I'm a little more confident in him than I am in Carlston Harris, especially when you got Wells' firepower coming back at you. So I think either guy could clip the other one, and if Harris clips Wells, you know, I think he's got a better chance of submitting him with one of his opportunistic chokes as opposed to the more methodical rear naked choke route that Wells would have. So this one could end via, you know, anyway, really. I think it's likely to end in a finish, but my pick is really Jeremiah Wells. Jeremiah Wells, I do think he's got better power, like I said, and Carlston Harris, I have a little less faith in his chin. So that's my pick. I'm going Jeremiah Wells. With a gun to my head, that would be my pick, but I'm not going to bet on it. I'm not betting on Wells anyway, but I might bet on Wells' prop bets for knockout, especially knockout in round 1, if that's juicy. But that's how I see the fight, and as of now, I'm staying away from it. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos.